Let's turn a for loop into a list comprehension. So we have a for loop here that loops over every string in a list of strings and uppercases the first letter of every word in each of those strings. If you have a for loop that is written in this format where you've got empty list, the for, and then you're appending to that empty list, you can copy paste your way into a comprehension. So the way to copy paste your way into a comprehension is to first take the square brackets and then copy the thing that we're appending. That goes first in the comprehension. And then our looping logic goes after that. That's the for line without the colon. So this comprehension here is equivalent to our for loop. Now, notice that I wrote this comprehension on multiple lines of code. I could have written this all on one line of code, but I don't find this as readable. White space is your friend, especially when it comes to code readability. So I personally prefer to write every component of my comprehension on a separate line. Now, this copy pasting strategy doesn't just work for loops in this format. It also works if you have a condition. So this loop here only appends things that are 30 characters or greater. So only the strings that are long are appended to this new list here. So same as before, we can copy paste a loop written in this format into a comprehension as well. The first thing we copy is the square brackets. Inside that, the first thing will be the thing that we're appending. After that, it's the for line, and then the last thing will be our condition. And again, I've written this over multiple lines of code because I find it more readable than if we'd taken the same logic and shoved it all onto one line of code, which isn't the least readable, but it's also not as readable as when each component is broken onto its own line. Now, this strategy even works in more complex cases. For example, if you have a nested for loop, you can copy paste your way into a comprehension in that case as well. As long as the loop that you're working with only has for, if, and then a single append, you can copy paste your way into a comprehension. It doesn't matter how many fors you have or how many ifs you have. So the first thing we copy paste again is the square brackets. And the next thing inside those square brackets is always the thing we're appending. And then after that, everything else remains in the same order. That's why we were copy pasting the for logic first and then the if logic afterward. So this copy pasting strategy, it only works if your for loop is written in the correct format. If you have multiple append calls or you have a little bit more complex logic in your comprehension, something that's not just an if or a for, then you're in for trouble. You can't copy paste your way into a comprehension. So for example, this for loop here, it has multiple append calls and it has an else. Those are both going to be a problem for us. Now, in this particular case, we can actually fix this by collapsing this into a single append call, and we can do that by making a helper function. This helper function has the logic of our if-else block from before. It's taking care of the if-else, returning a single result, and we're always appending that one result. So this for loop here now looks like the format that we can use to copy paste our way into this comprehension here. So if you have a for loop that makes an empty list, loops over some old interval, possibly has another for loop in it, maybe it filters down based on a condition, and it only has a single append call, you can copy paste your way from that for loop into a list comprehension. If your for loop is in another format, you have a little bit more complex logic within it, you'll have to figure out how to massage your for loop into a simpler for loop that can be copy pasted into a comprehension. And I do recommend copy pasting away from a loop to a comprehension, at least while you're new to comprehensions, because it's a little bit easier to do.